So Barb Proia joins the podcast today. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. How's your day going?
So far, so good. We were just chit-chatting a little bit before that you learn to roll with the punches and you learn to expect the unexpected, and all things are good.
Yes, that's part of life, part of being a business owner, like all of that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So your business, you organize by Barb. Why don't we let's start there and just like what do you do for people and families and what do you do there?
I think my most important focus and goal when I'm working with clients is to give them some freedom back in their life,
Mm,
help them reclaim their space and their sanity so that they can focus on what matters most, so they can take advantage of the beautiful community that we live in and just to have that freedom to focus on the things that are more important. I've found that stuff has a way of controlling us
mm,
and our environment has a way of controlling us. So if I can help them learn to manage their environment and maybe learn a little bit about why they're in the situation that they're in, I feel like I've been successful
mm.
with my clients.
I like that. I like the word freedom, right? Because it's I think about like my family and our life like on the weekends and stuff. Like it can be pretty easy to spend the entire weekend doing chores or cleaning and organizing stuff.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
that's really not what the weekend is for,
Right.
right? And our
Yeah.
home isn't a storage unit, and I find that so often, our home has become a storage unit. We're paying for space that we can't use, and we really are tied to, our home, managing it, managing all the things, and it's flipped. We should be controlling our space
Mhm.
and designing our life that we wanna live, and instead, our space and our things just start to control us.
Mhm.
The outer order or the lack of order, in your physical environment seriously impacts your inner peace, your inner thought process, and how in control you feel. And it spreads beyond just, the boundaries of your home or your office or the space that you're in. It really affects everything we do in our daily lives.
Mhm. Do you do you think everybody's affected like in the same way with all the stuff and clutter and everything or so are some people like they can just handle it like that they kind of not thrive in that environment, but, like, that's what they're comfortable in? Or is it just, like, unconsciously maybe it's affecting them?
I think to some degree it affects everyone, and
Yeah,
again, depending on how you've learned to cope with it,
yeah,
depending on what your style is as well. I mean, there are so many different styles or methods of organization, and so much of that depends on who you are, right? How you think, what your thought processes are. Some people need to see things because if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. Other people need everything behind a closed door and the counters clear before they can really think and process well. But I do think it affects everyone in some way. A lot of it is subconscious because our
yeah,
mind is taking in all the things that we see. That physical clutter is also visual clutter, which becomes a mental clutter. I don't know if you ever have those days where like you've just got this constant checklist running in your mind and you can't really focus
mhm,
on anything for any particular amount of time because you're just regurgitating this list of things to do and the things, you're seeing all of it. So our mind looks at all the stuff that's out and sees that as things that have to be managed, whether we're
mhm,
physically touching them or not. And it flows over to the family or your coworkers or the people that you're with too, because when you are not feeling in control, right, if you're not able to focus and make good decisions, if you're sort of just, going on the fly because you're really out of control, it affects relationships, it affects your
mhm,
work productivity, it affects so many aspects of your life. And even there are lots of studies right now that really correlate disorganization and clutter with weight gain, being able to manage your weight
mm,
because of the physical, not only the physical effects, like the serotonin and what's going on in your body, but also when you're living in chaos, you can't really make good decisions about your
mhm,
food or take the time to, cook, or maybe you don't even have the space in your home,
yeah,
to be able to prepare a meal or you don't know what you have in your cabinet. So I do think that it affects everyone to one degree or another, but some people a lot more.
yeah, yeah, I can see that, and I was just thinking back to, like, last night and, like, the organization part, and our family's been better at, we kinda learned this along the way, like, having kids and everything. It's like when we plan out our meals for the week, so we know exactly what we're cooking that for dinner that night or whatever, that makes a huge difference because 'cause I'm not thinking of it throughout the day, like, "Okay, what am I gonna make for dinner tonight?" Do I need to go pick up any ingredients from Publix or anything like that? But just having that plan, like, it makes me feel so much more better and prepared, for the evening time, which can be chaos with young kids.
For sure,
Yeah.
right? And just, I'm sure we all have that feeling when you walk in the door, things are good until you walk in the door and then you're like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh," right? I forgot there's so much junk on the counter. This has to happen and this has to
Mm,
happen. And so, I really try to focus on a couple areas with my clients. It's just being real life.
yeah,
Um, and maybe demystifying organization a little bit. We can get really wrapped up in Pinterest and Instagram and all of these, sort of after photo, worthy homes. And I just don't think that's realistic. And so one of the things that I really want to try to do with my clients who tend to be more women is just give them permission to live in a real home.
mm,
That our homes don't have to be that after photo, but if we can create some systems that work for your family, then the house can get messy. That's real life with kids. That's real
yeah,
life with, businesses and all that we have going on. But the key is you can get your home back in order quickly,
yeah,
right? And just
right,
having some basic systems. And I think that releases a lot of pressure for families too, just to not feel like they're having to live up to this Instagram,
yeah,
worthy home that doesn't really exist. All of that is staged for the most part,
yeah, for
these
one
beautiful
photo,
for a
right,
photo and just be realistic about what works. Something different works for every family, and that's one of the things that I love is that, we get in and we really talk about how you use your space, and then we
mhm,
create something that's gonna flow for your family, and it's not the same solution, as the family down the street, and that's the beauty of it, as I feel like I really get an opportunity to teach
yeah,
along the way and help people see why they might be in this situation and hopefully kind of counteract that for the long term by teaching as we go and just instead of just putting pretty bins, and decanting things in rainbow order that's just not realistic for most families.
yeah, that's pretty cool. I go back to, when someone's buying a home and I'm helping them kinda through that process, and it's kinda the same thing. It's like, okay, where do you spend most of your time in the home? What room is most important to you to make sure that, that's the room that we're, when you're looking at homes and stuff, that we're focusing on that to make sure it fits your needs and wants for your lifestyle.
Yeah, that's such a great strategy. And that's, everything can't be done overnight,
Yeah,
in a home either. And so we do the same thing. Like, what is the space that's going to make the biggest difference for your family?
sure.
Let's just hunker down and start there and figure it out as we go. But so many, speaking of getting into a situation where you're, thinking about selling your home and you start thinking about, oh my gosh, we have 25 years of clutter in the closets and whatnot. It's such a freeing thing for people to start disposing of it, donating it, getting it out, and being able to live a little bit freer. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, why did we wait so long, to
Yeah,
do these
right.
remodel or repaint or whatever it is? Now we're going to turn around and sell the house. So really just encourage people to, you know, it pays for itself in peace of mind, and the freedom that you have to just really start looking at the contents of your home and what you have and what you really use, and what the likelihood is that you're gonna use something that's been shoved away in a closet, in a box, up in the corner, for 20 years.
Mhm.
Chances are you're not gonna ever touch that again.
Yeah. Is there like a rule of thumb, like if you're not gonna if you haven't used, this item or whatever it is for 3 months, 6 months, a year, like, you should just go ahead and get rid of it?
I think everybody, again, is
Different,
different
yeah.
with how they feel. What I do find is that as we get in and we work, the first few sessions are a little tough because people have a hard time letting go of things because they feel like they paid money for it or someone gave it to them. And so as we work, I think they see that freedom that it wasn't so hard and it actually feels better to have the space
Mhm.
than the stuff, right? They see that the potential with the real estate, if you will, in their home. Um, and I really just some things are seasonal, right? You need to hold on to them, but you might only use your Christmas or your Thanksgiving or your
Sure.
special things, during the holiday season. But then the key is not holding on to those things in the main space of your home,
Right.
right? So it's taking up valuable real estate for things that you're using every day. And that's part of what we go through when we when we kind of get into zoning the spaces, is that we may need to hold on to things, but it may just need to be somewhere else, even though it's a kitchen item, or a holiday dress or whatever it is. It maybe doesn't have to be in the main area of your home that you access every day, because it's really taking up space that can be used better for something else. So we just we look at the items and figure out what it is.
Mhm.
In my mind, if you haven't used it in 6 months or a year, you're probably not going to use it. If we're unpacking closets and we find boxes and bins with dust on them, it's a pretty good, we can pretty much just
Yeah.
probably get rid of the whole thing. One of the things that laugh with my clients is, if I threw this away or donate it, you wouldn't even know, right? We haven't known for 10 years what's in this box. You haven't reached into it. Chances are it doesn't matter
Yeah.
anymore.
So let's not even open it.
So
Let's
let's
just
not even
yeah.
open it, because the truth is, when we start opening things and holding them, then all of a sudden all those
Mm.
memories and all those things start coming back. And then it's less likely that we're going to be able to move it on
Mhm.
to where it belongs, whether it's donated or, giving it to someone or trash, when we start holding things again.
Yeah. Do you it I think I heard a stat recently about this, and we might have talked about this when we first met, about the storage units that we have, like, outside of our home, right? And is that like a US thing? Like, it's not like people across the world have storage units, right? I think it's just in the US and more like our area. I don't know if it's just because people have moved here. Like the amount of storage units that have popped up in the last 2, 3 years is just insane. And like how huge. I mean, there's one right next to us and it's massive. Is like where does that come like why is that a thing in the United States that we like stuff, right? We have all this opportunity for to collect all this stuff, but we don't even use it.
It's really interesting, 'cause you're right, and I think it's a more of a US phenomenon around the quantity of things. I mean, first of all, when you think about European homes, Asian homes, they're smaller to begin with, and
Oh,
so I
true.
think that's part of just they've never really had that space. You see it, right? We're moving into bigger and bigger homes,
Mhm.
particularly here. I don't think well, we don't have basements and all of those things that a
Sure.
lot of people are used to, but we continue to acquire at a rate that is so much greater than what we're moving out, right? People like to go back to that one in, one out. Well, that's really like the foundation, because if we keep bringing things in but never taking things out, it's no wonder,
Mhm.
that we've got to store. And I think that, the need to store, there's some logic in that. There are certain things that do need to be stored, particularly, if people are in transition, but we're holding on to things because we spent money on them, right?
Yeah.
We're such a consumer focused society. I mean, now you can't even open up your phone without somebody telling you that you need this and you need
Yeah.
that. And I think being able to kind of disconnect yourself from that consumerism and pull back a little bit and think about, well, what's best for our family? Is it spending money on the things, or is it spending money on, a vacation or just time together, or experiences that we can have versus the thing, particularly when it comes to kids. I think we've gotten so caught up in, they need to have every toy,
Mhm.
every gadget, everything. We're doing them a disservice, right? When they have so much, they're just like us and overwhelmed,
Yeah.
can't focus. They're so much more creative when they have, fewer things vying for their attention. But I think we're really caught up and we spent money in it. I might use it sometime. The truth is, you know what? If you put something in a storage unit, packed in a box behind 17 other boxes, when the time comes that you need it, you're probably going to go out and buy it again, because you might not even remember you have it.
Mhm.
Um, and when it comes to the money, like, that money was gone the minute you swiped your card, right?
Right, right.
It
You're
was
not getting that
gone.
back.
Holding on to
Yeah.
something, you know, that is 25 or $50 just in case you might need it. The money's gone,
Mhm.
right? So we might as well at least reclaim the space and use that in a better and more positive way. But yeah, I think it's just out of control with the
Yeah.
storage units. It really is.
And then you're spending money on the storage unit
And then
itself,
you're
right? So then it's like, okay, well, I what if I just got rid of that item and didn't even need the storage unit?
absolutely, and
Yeah,
I mean, and there are definitely reasons to have them, but I think
for sure.
we've adopted this way of life, which is, well, we have more stuff than fits in our home, so we'll just, now
Mm.
rent someplace off-site to
Yeah,
store it,
yeah,
right?
and that's okay,
And
or
that's
okay.
normal.
Yeah,
That's
right,
normal
right.
here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't have a storage unit. We never have, and that's kind of one of my goals is to just kind of keep culling down. We don't need to have all of that stuff. We
Mhm.
really don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the one in, one out, method, trying to, like, stick to that, as best you can. Um, Obviously, there's some things where you're just gonna, are different, right? Like, you're getting it for the first time or whatever, but so how did you get started in this business?
Well, it's a long, windy road, probably like most people, in their careers. I have a background in psychology and a master's degree in labor relations. And I spent a lot of time in corporate America focusing on organizational design and doing organization type things with people
Oh,
and
okay.
companies. And just over time, the business that I was in closed, and I had a great opportunity to be at home with my kids for a while. And the the organization just always was part of my life, and I always knew that I felt better and more in control, and I felt calm, and I could handle what was coming at me better when my home was tidy. It wasn't necessarily that everything was, perfectly labeled, but everything had a spot and a
Mhm.
home and a place to go, and that gave me a real sense of peace that I could get things put away. And it was one of those things that girlfriends would call and say, "Hey, can you help? We can't figure this out." And little by little, I just figured, you know what? This is actually a thing because not everyone really knows what to do. Organization isn't one of those things that, oh, you hear all the time, "Oh, I wasn't born with that organization gene, so,
Yeah.
I need somebody to do it for me." It's a learned skill and it's a habit more than anything, and so I do feel like I'm teaching. I'm helping you set your systems up, but I'm also teaching you along the way that if we don't change habits after we set up your system, you're gonna be right back to where you were, when you
Mhm.
called me, and that's probably one of the biggest things that I hear from clients is, "I've tried, I've tried, I've tried." But so it just really has become something that I feel like I can add significant value for my clients and just helping them understand how to simplify their space and how to maintain it. So, it's been a lot of trial and error. Starting a business, is different than just doing something as a passion or,
Yeah.
for fun, for friends and family. So it's been a huge learning experience, but I do feel like it's something that is needed in our community. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people just really don't know. They think it's a little bit more complicated, or they think we need to buy all the stuff in order to be organized. But that's the last part, right? We could use whatever we find in your house.
Mhm.
And just simplifying it for people, demystifying it has really been, I think, an area where I can set myself apart, that I'm really just not focused on the aesthetic, the decorative organization, but really the functional
Yeah, like
organization.
all these cute boxes and everything, right?
Mhm.
Just making
Mhm.
sure it's functional.
Yeah.
Um, do you what's like starting your business? What was a challenge for you in getting started? Was it
Well,
hard to commit to say, like, "I'm gonna," like, did I guess, like, take a step back, and I'm gonna ask you another question first. Did you ever think about owning a business, like, prior to, the your company shutting down?
mhm.
Was that ever a goal of yours?
Yes, in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
Both my husband and I come from a family of entrepreneurs, so both of our families were, business owners at some time or another in our growing up in our history.
Mhm.
We own a small business as a family also. When my husband came out of corporate America, and we've owned a small business for 17 years. So I feel like it's in my blood.
Mhm.
But it's scary when
Mhm.
take that step and then you kind of look back and go, "Whoa, okay, I had no idea, how much work it was going to be to work on my business and also work in my business as, a solopreneur, trying to figure out how to do it all." So I think it's always been part of how we've lived our lives is that we love the freedom of having our own business. We work way more than, as you know, we
Yeah.
work way more than we would if we were working for someone else, but it gives us that freedom, and if we're gonna work hard, we might as well work for ourselves.
Mhm. And a little bit of control over your time, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, and I think it's a great thing to show your children too,
Mm,
just how to do this and let it be their choice. My daughter she started a cupcake business when she was in 4th grade, and she's been doing that.
cool.
So, my kids have gotten a little bit of that entrepreneurial spirit too, and I think that's really important for them to see that there are alternatives, right? And
Yes.
there are different choices that they can make, but, seeing just the commitment to the family has been really cool to see,
Yeah.
how they view it too.
Yeah, that is cool, and I think, they pick up on the work that's involved and the discipline and everything that
Mhm.
goes into running a business successfully, so, yeah, that's pretty cool. What's been the biggest challenge for you, with the business? I know for myself, it's like you mentioned it, like working on your business and then, the with the customer and face to face and making sure that money is coming in, right? Like separating and balancing that time schedule for me is always a challenge.
It is, I think for most people who are doing their passion, you really
Yeah,
wanna be
right.
in your business, right?
Yeah.
Because you love what you're doing and it's so rewarding, but at the same time, if you don't balance that, I think for me, my biggest challenge and also my biggest aha was being okay with what I do. Because what I do is different than a lot of other organizers, and staying in my lane and not getting
Mm,
distracted by, well, she's doing that or they're doing this or oh my gosh, I should be doing this. Maybe I should add this service, and just being able to pull back and go, wait, okay, where I add value is different, right? What they do is great too, but I'm this and I'm this to my clients and I want to be known. I used to get so worried about all my, my social media isn't, all these gorgeous photos. It's real life stuff because
mhm.
that's where I'm at, right? In the messy real life with people. But it's so easy to see all that shiny things or to assume that someone else is super successful because they're, doing this aspect of it. And so being keeping myself focused on what I offer, what is my unique offering to my clients and who is my target audience, because not everybody who needs organization is my target
Mhm.
audience, and it's been hard at times to turn clients down, mostly because that's not what I do best,
Yeah.
instead of thinking of it as another paycheck, but I feel like I can serve my clients so much better, and I'm so much happier when I really stick to who my target audience is and just serve them well, and I it's been hard, because you wanna go and do a million other things. You see
Yeah.
all this stuff going on and being okay and being confident in that. Like, that's the hard part, right? Is being confident in the choices and knowing that they're right for you, even if they're, someone else who does what you do or similar things is doing something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge. I think that's if every business owner can nail that down from the beginning, right? Like have your target audience and just be confident and disciplined enough to say like, this is who I'm gonna work with. And if they don't fit, what I want to work with or, my mold of my business, then, I'm not gonna work with them. Right.
It's hard, right? When you're
Yeah.
thinking about money, paycheck or,
Yeah.
all of that stuff,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's probably one of the most important things for small business owners is to really know who your target is and work to make that customer experience phenomenal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And make it
Mm-hmm.
seamless and simple for them because I do believe that the client flow will come from that instead of being
Yeah.
all over the
Yeah.
place and sort of doing everything okay. I really wanna do these couple of things, like, to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you come to that conclusion? How did you find, like, your target audience? Like, do you think it, um 'cause for me, it was like, okay, who did I work with, like, the last couple years, and who did I enjoy working with the most? And then right, so it took, experience and some sales to get to that point. Like, can you identify that from the beginning, or do you think it takes that experience of, running the business to identify that?
For some people, maybe they know from the
Yeah.
start. I didn't. I just sort of jumped in, and I think that maybe is probably the other learning is that if I waited for everything to be perfect, like, I still
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have started,
Right,
right? Like,
right, right,
that
right.
you just get that imposter syndrome and you like, "Am I really like, can I actually do this, and what do people really think?" but just jumping in, and it was trial and error, for me, just like you, like figuring out which of the, the circumstances, the types of clients I felt like I was serving them best, and I felt the best also.
Mhm.
I can do all the things, but, I don't love dealing with paper, and I finally just came to terms with that, like, that's not my thing. I know somebody who does, right? And it's my pleasure to be able to put these people in touch with someone who, loves that. And, but it has been trial and error for
Mhm.
sure, and just and narrowing it down, and I've had some great coaches along the way too, really push me to to get to that point, because it is that afraid to leave the money on the table, and being confident enough to know that what you do is valued, and but you serve a certain niche,
Mhm.
um, and being excellent in that area versus being okay in all of the areas. But I wouldn't have known truly unless I had started, doing those and having experiences in different areas, and knowing, what was the best fit for me and the way I approach organization.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. Unless you have like a experience like working in a business that's very similar and you just, you're just shifting to you're being the business owner.
Sure.
I would agree. I think it's you have to go through of the trial and error of like, working with all different types of backgrounds and people and that sort of stuff. And then too, I think you touched on it, like you're happier and the customer's happier and they have a better experience too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we can execute all of it, right?
Right, right.
But, just that level of commitment to the customer. And I mean, I've been in a few jobs and I love all my customers. And I'm like, well, I can't really wait for this one to get done,
Yeah.
because the beauty of being in business for ourselves is we get to feed our souls too, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's part of it for me, is that I feed my soul when I'm helping my clients get solutions, and when I can see that light bulb, going off, or just, I it's crazy, like, the 2 best reviews I've ever had were both one sentence. A 6-year-old boy said, "It's a miracle," about his room, and a young mom with 3 little girls said, "She changed my life." Those are the things that's why we're doing what we're doing, and that's why I need to stay focused on my target market, because I want each of my client experiences to be like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So one thing I wanna touch on too, you also help with, um, transitions, like moving, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
unpacking, packing, that sort of stuff. That's a big part of it. I mean, in my business, like, that's probably, like, the least fun part about buying and selling homes, right, is having to pack up all your stuff and move it to another home. So touch on that a little bit.
So I focus primarily on the upfront, and I love to get involved with homeowners who are thinking about selling or know that their plan is down the
Mhm.
road,
Mhm.
a year or so, because I can get in and work with them early on to clear everything out of their home quickly, which benefits you, benefits them, obviously, because when they're showing a home that is spacious, is
Yeah.
clean, doesn't have a ton of personal effects in it, it helps everyone. And I kind of see myself in between a real estate professional, the stager, and the homeowner, and being that catalyst, because
Mhm.
when you're in the process of buying and selling homes, there are so many decisions that you have to
Yeah.
make, right? There's so many things that are demanding your attention, that getting to going through, all the stuff the stuff stuffed in closets, and in the garage, and things that you haven't touched for years, is really hard. It's really hard to even just get to that stage. And so if I can come in and support, people who are in transition in that way, then, we can move. You can move. Everyone can move much more quickly through the process. And it works really well with another segment of my client population, which is the chronically disorganized, or the chronic acquirers,
Mm.
who just they need help to get it's really hard for them to make the decisions,
Takes
because that's
time to
thousands
yeah.
of decisions, in a day that we already make. Then you throw on top of that, and it's just overload. It's too much. And so it works well, because most of the people who are in transition like that have been in their homes for quite a long time. There's a lot of sentimental attachment to the things that are
Mhm.
there, even if they don't even know what it is. And, so I can help them process through it, at the same time get it out, get the home looking great, but also then we don't need to worry about packing up and moving all this stuff that's just gonna
Mhm.
go in a box, in a closet, in a garage, in the new space. I had a client last year that an older lady, and once we unpacked everything, we had about 17 boxes that still needed to be donated. And,
Wow.
it was really a traumatic time for her because she didn't have a ton of cash. And she said, I paid for all this stuff to be packed
Mm.
and moved, and then you came in to help me unpack, and now we're moving it out again. And,
Mhm.
some of it is just very practical. Moving is the one opportunity you have to start fresh.
Mhm.
And so if I can help in that way, I don't pack homes, for moving. I will do some light packing and prep and help the client kind of coach them through the process, and then we unpack if we need that. But I feel like the best way that I can help people in transition is to really help them process out the things before they even make the move.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, and, like, when it comes time to selling, I'm thinking back, like, a couple showings I went on this week, and one home had a lot of stuff, right? It was a great space, like, if you could see past all the stuff, like, nice floors and, updated kitchen and everything, but they just had so much stuff, and it just felt dark and cramped, like, when you walked in that
Mhm.
space, and then we went on another one that was the complete opposite, right? It was open, it was bright, and lots of natural light. They didn't have a lot of clutter and a lot of stuff. And the buyers like picked up on that. They're like, as soon as you walk in, you're like, oh wow, this is the space, right? This is what I want.
Yeah, it changes the way you feel.
Yeah.
And think about it, like, why wait till you're moving? Is it changes the way you
Right.
feel in your own home
Right.
too, right? But it's so true when when you don't have stuff on every surface, when you open up a pantry or a linen closet and you see open space, it doesn't have to be, again, be Pinterest perfect, but there's some organization that potential homeowner sees, yeah, there's room in the closet.
Mm-hmm.
There's space here. And I think the natural thought process is if they see a lot of clutter, whether or not this is true, they assume that it also might not be super clean,
Clean. Yep.
right? Because clutter attracts dust and all kinds of stuff too, and you've got corners and so I think it's just really important to do. But if you're gonna wait, why wait? Like,
Yeah.
give yourself the benefit of living in a clutter-free space.
Yeah. And then there's some doubt from the buyer too, like, oh, can they move out in time? Can they
Oh
get all this
gosh,
stuff out of here?
yes. Yeah.
I've had that before. Yeah, super
Thank you.
valuable for what
Yeah.
you do.
Thank you.
What so I like to wrap up with this question. When you're not working, when you're not helping people like organize their lives, what is it? What is one thing, one business that you like to visit, or one place that you like to visit in our area, that kind of feeds your soul?
Okay. So, well, I might have to give you more than one, but so I love, and I think again that freedom. I love to hit Honeymoon Island
Yeah,
during the week when
when it's
when I'm
quiet.
there kind of by myself and I can read or just spend a couple hours. It's a great thinking place. I'll bring my notebook and just sit and brainstorm for my business. So that's my personal thing. We love fireside pizza
Mm,
in Palm Harbor, and we
hmm.
also love Cazzatina and Dunedin, so those are
Yeah,
our favorite hangout places too. Yeah.
yeah, all great spots.
Yeah.
Do you have on Honeymoon Island? Do you have like one spot that you go to every single time, or do you
Yeah.
bounce around? You
I
do?
usually do.
Yeah,
I'm a habit. I'm a creature of habit too,
yeah,
because that's my whole thing, right? It's all about habits, and it just feels good to go sit even if I can just grab an hour.
yeah.
Rejuvenates me for
Yeah,
sure.
I would agree. I think, like, I do one thing I do here is, like, if I, am in the office, like, all day, I'll take an hour break to get outside and just go sit by the water somewhere.
Mhm.
It's like it just changes your whole
Yeah,
mood.
I can't even explain it, right? It's the
Yeah.
sun, the salt, the smells,
Yeah.
the all of the things, the waves. It just, yeah, there's something about it. We're
Mm,
so blessed to be
for
here.
sure. For
And
sure.
so many people just don't take advantage of what we have.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Barb, thank you so much for being here. We'll link, all your links and stuff. We'll put that in the description below for people to check out if they're interested in reaching out to you. So, thank you.
great. Thank you so much for having me. It's
Yeah.
been fun.